The sun climbed higher, its light spilling across my small courtyard. I sat on the wooden chair, the folded baby blanket resting on my lap, my diary closed beside me. For the first time since yesterday, I let the silence breathe with me instead of against me. I thought of the words that had cut me so deeply: don't come, you'll embarrass me. And yet, here I was, alive, breathing, steady. My dignity had not broken, even if my heart had cracked. I whispered softly, they may see wrinkles as shame, they may see simplicity as embarrassment, but I see these lines on my face as stories, each thread in my sari as sacrifice, each gray hair as proof that I lived, that I gave, that I endured. The blanket in my lap seemed to glow in the sunlight. I smoothed its surface gently, whispering, this will wait. One day, small hands will reach for it, not caring whether it was stitched by an old woman or bought in a store. Love will cover them, and love does not embarrass anyone. I looked to the sky and said aloud, perhaps my daughter will never understand, but I do not need her approval to know my worth. A mother's value is not measured by how her children display her in front of others. It is measured by the life she carried, the sacrifices she made, and the dignity she holds even when forgotten. If you believe no mother should ever be hidden away, press like and comment respect below. Share this story so no woman's dignity is erased. To every child who might hear these words, I leave this message: do not call your mother an embarrassment. Do not hide her from your joy. Remember the hands that fed you, the feet that ran for you, the eyes that stayed open when the world slept. If you cannot honor her in public, then your success is not success at all, it is emptiness, dressed in glitter. Do not wait until your mother's chair is empty. Do not wait until her hands are still. Celebrate her now, while her heart still beats for you. I rose slowly, carrying the diary and the blanket back into my room. I placed them carefully in the wooden box, locking them away not in shame, but in pride. I whispered one last line into the still air. Better to sit alone with dignity than to be surrounded with disrespect. And as the wind brushed against my cheeks, I knew the truth. I was not her embarrassment. She was mine. Morning crept in with pale light, soft yet unkind. My room was quiet, but my heart still carried the echoes of yesterday, the music, the laughter, the message that cut me deeper than any knife. Don't come, you'll embarrass me. I rose slowly, my bones stiff, and went to the window. Across the lane, my daughter's courtyard was scattered with the remains of celebration, wilted flowers, paper plates, a deflated balloon drifting in the corner. Servants swept away the evidence of joy, as though it were nothing more than dust. I could hear voices, faint but sharp. Some of the relatives had stayed the night, and now they sat in the veranda sipping tea. What a beautiful party, one said, her voice loud with pride. Such a glow on her face, such fine gifts. Truly, she has everything a woman could want. Another added, yes, and not a single flaw. Everything perfect. Everything perfect. I closed my eyes, my hand pressed to my chest. Perfect, because I was not there. Perfect, because my presence would have been the blemish. I turned from the window and sat at my desk. My diary still lay there, waiting. I opened it to a fresh page, dipped my pen in ink, and began to write. Yesterday was my daughter's baby shower. The house was full of guests, laughter, and songs. But I was not there. My child, whom I carried in my arms and in my prayers, told me I would shame her. She did not want her mother's face among the blessings of her new life. Tears blurred the words, but I kept writing. I stitched a blanket with my hands, but it lies here folded, unwanted. I was offered leftovers, as though my dignity could be filled with crumbs. They erased me from their joy, as if I never existed. I paused, wiping my cheeks, and whispered, but these pages will not erase me. These words will remember me. If you believe no mother should be erased from her children's happiest moments, please comment respect below. Let's show forgotten mothers they are not alone. I closed the diary, pressing it to my heart. The room was quiet, but in the silence, I felt something stirred up bitterness. Not rage, but clarity. I whispered aloud, as though my daughter could hear through the walls, you may think I am your shame. You may hide me from your guests, but you cannot erase what I gave you. The nights I went hungry, the years I carried your burdens, the prayers that rose from my lips, they live inside you. Whether you admit it or not, the paper bag with the blanket still sat on the table. I placed my hand on it and said softly, this is not wasted. Love never is. One day, my grandchild will know it came from a grandmother who may have been hidden, but never stopped loving. I thought the diary would hold the final word of my pain, but one last truth remained, one that belonged only to me. The sun dipped low, and slowly the sounds of the celebration began to fade. One by one, the guests left my daughter's house. Their laughter lingered, echoing faintly across the lane until only silence remained. I sat still at my table, the folded baby blanket pressed against my chest. My stomach was empty, but hunger did not matter. The only ache I felt was the hollow place in my heart where my daughter's love should have been. Just as the quiet settled, I heard footsteps. My door creaked open, and there she was, my daughter. She stood in the doorway, holding a plastic box filled with leftover sweets. Her face was calm, her smile thin, almost rehearsed. "Ma," she said softly, "I brought you these. We had so much food, and I thought you might want some." She set the box down on my table, next to the folded blanket. For a moment, she looked at it, but said nothing. I stared at the sweets, lattice, barfi, halwa, bright and sweet, but heavy with a bitterness no sugar could hide. My voice trembled as I asked, "Did you not remember what today is?" She looked away. "Ma, please don't start. Today was about me. The guests were here for me. I didn't want anyone to think less of me. You understand, don't you?" Her words pierced deeper than any insult. Understand. How often had I told myself to understand? Understand the hunger of my children. Understand the cruelty of life. Understand the silence when I deserved gratitude. But now, even on the day that marked my birth, I was asked to understand why my existence was an embarrassment. I looked at the box of sweets, then back at her. "When you were small, I never gave you leftovers. I always gave you the first bite, the freshest meal, the biggest portion even, if it meant I went hungry. Why do you think your mother deserves only what was left behind?" She shifted uncomfortably, her eyes avoiding mine. "Ma, please don't make this difficult. Just take them. I don't have time to argue. If you believe no mother should ever be offered leftovers on the happiest days of her children's lives, please like this video. Let the world remember the sacrifices of mothers." I pushed the box gently back across the table. My voice was steady now. "I am not hungry for crumbs. What I wanted was your love, your respect, your presence. Sweets cannot replace what you denied me today." For the first time, her face flushed with shame. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came. Finally, she turned and walked out, leaving the box behind. The door closed softly, and silence filled the room once more. I looked at the sweets, untouched. I whispered to myself, better to starve with dignity than to feast on disrespect. Then, slowly, I picked up the baby blanket and folded it once more, tighter than before, as though sealing my love away until it would one day be needed not by my daughter, but by the grandchild who would never know how close they came to losing a grandmother's blessing. I thought the leftover sweets were the last cruelty of the day, but the morning that followed brought me one final truth. The music carried on late into the afternoon, its rhythm like a mocking drumbeat against the silence in my own house. I sat at my small wooden table, the paper bag still resting in my lap. I had not opened it since morning. I could not bear to. Finally, with trembling hands, I unfolded the bag and pulled out the baby blanket I had sewn. The patches of cloth looked back at me like little windows into my past. Blue from my son's school shirt, pink from my daughter's frock, white from a sari border that had once belonged to me. Every square had a story stitched into it, a memory held together by threads of sacrifice. I spread it gently across the table. My fingers ran over the seams, recalling the nights I had stitched by dim lantern light, whispering lullabies to myself as though my unborn grandchild could already hear me. I had imagined placing it in my daughter's hands, imagined her tears when she realized what it was made from. I had imagined her saying, "Ma, no gift in the world could mean more than this." But now, the blanket lay flat and lifeless, not wanted, not welcome, a gift destined to stay hidden, like me. Tears blurred my eyes, falling onto the cloth, darkening the seams. I wiped them quickly, whispering, "I will not let my love stain this. It deserves better than my sorrow." I folded it back carefully, tighter this time, as though protecting it from the world. My hands shook, but my heart whispered a truth I could not deny. This blanket was not rejected. I was. If you believe no mother's love should ever be rejected, please share this video. Let's give a voice to every forgotten mother. Through the window, I caught glimpses of the party. Women laughed as they piled gifts on a table. Glittering toys, embroidered clothes, boxers wrapped in shiny ribbons. The kind of gifts money could buy. Mine sat in my lap stitched, not with wealth, but with memory, hunger, sacrifice, and sleepless nights. Yet it was the only one that would never reach her hands. I whispered, "One day, my grandchild will need warmth. And when that day comes, I will wrap them in this. Even if their mother forgets me, I will not forget them. But the ache in my chest only deepened, not because the blanket would never be seen, but because my daughter wanted me hidden as well. The truth pressed down like iron. She did not want my face, my voice, or my love standing beside her on the happiest day of her life. I thought the rejection of my gift was the final wound, but the evening had another cruelty waiting. As the music swelled next door, I sat by my door, clutching the paper bag tighter and tighter until the edges crumpled beneath my fingers. Each laugh that floated across the wall was like a reminder, a whisper that I did not belong there. Then, suddenly, my phone buzzed. My heart leaped. I opened it quickly, my hands trembling. It was a message from my daughter. For a moment, I smiled, believing it would say, "Ma, where are you? Come quickly." But as I read the words, the blood drained from my face. "Ma, please don't come. The guests are here, and it will be awkward. You know how people talk. I don't want them to think less of me. I will come see you later. Please understand." The phone nearly slipped from my hand. My eyes blurred with tears as I read the message again, unable to believe it. "Don't come. You will embarrass me." I wanted to shout, "Embarrass you? These hands that carried you, these feet that ran to every doctor, this back that bent so you could stand taller, they an embarrassment." But my throat closed. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst. I sat motionless, staring at the bag on my lap. Inside lay the baby blanket I had sewn with such love, every stitch a memory of her childhood. My daughter wanted it hidden. She wanted me hidden. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I pressed the bag to my chest. I whispered, "I am your mother. How can I be your shame?" If this moment broke your heart, please subscribe. Too many mothers are silenced and made to feel like burdens. Let's keep their voices alive. I thought back to her wedding. I remembered how she had clung to me, weeping as she left my home, saying, "Ma, I will always need you." Now, her words were replaced with silence and shame. She no longer needed me, not as a mother, not as a woman, not even as a guest. I wiped my tears with the corner of my shawl and whispered, "I stitched this blanket with love, not shame. If your guests cannot see that, it is their blindness, not my fault." But still, the ache burned. From my window, I watched her glow in the courtyard, surrounded by friends and relatives. They showered her with gifts wrapped in silver paper, tied with golden ribbons. She laughed, her hands resting on her growing belly, while mine gripped the empty silence of my lap. She looked radiant. She looked complete. And yet, she looked as though she had forgotten me. I thought the message would be the last. Cruelty. But the day had one more wound waiting. The day of the baby shower arrived. I sat at my window with the paper bag on my lap, the baby blanket folded neatly inside. My eyes followed each guest as they stepped into my daughter's house, women in shimmering saris, men carrying baskets of fruit, children giggling with balloons in their hands. My heart ached to join them, but my feet hesitated. Perhaps I should wait until they call me. It would be more graceful, I told myself. Just then, a familiar voice called from the lane. It was my neighbor, Shanti. She stopped in front of me, her smile tight, her eyes darting. "Are you not going, Didi?" she asked, pointing toward the decorated courtyard. I smiled faintly. "I am waiting. Perhaps they will send someone for me." Her smile faded. She looked at the ground before whispering, "Forgive me, but I heard them talking. They said, maybe you shouldn't come. They worry. You know, people might say things." Her words stung like thorns. "Say what?" I asked, though my voice already trembled with the answer I feared. She hesitated before murmuring, "That your sari is too plain. Your presence too simple. They think the guests might talk if you sit there among them." My hand clutched the paper bag tighter, the stitches of the baby blanket pressing into my palm. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. "They are busy." Perhaps they didn't mean it. But when Shanti left, her eyes full of pity, I knew the truth had begun to whisper its way to me. I sat frozen, staring at the courtyard. I could hear music playing now, the drumbeats of joy I had long dreamed of sharing. Women clapped, laughter spilled into the air, and above it all, my daughter's voice rang like a bell, sweet, proud, glowing. But no one called my name. If you believe no mother should be told she isn't good enough to stand with her own child, please like this video. Let's make sure these stories are never silenced. I tried to reason with myself. Perhaps they want me to make an entrance later, when all the guests are seated. Perhaps she wants to surprise them, saying, "This is my mother, the one who made me who I am." But the longer I waited, the heavier the silence in my house grew. My phone lay still. My door remained unopened. Through the open window, I caught glimpses of relatives. Some avoided looking toward my house, as though my absence were already agreed upon. Some even whispered to each other, shaking their heads. And in my heart, a seed of fear sprouted. Maybe my daughter herself had agreed that I should not come. I thought the whispers were just gossip, but they were only the first cut of a deeper wound. As I sat with the paper bag resting in my lap, memories unfolded like pages from an old diary. I closed my eyes and was carried back to when my daughter was just a little girl with ribbons in her hair and questions spilling from her lips faster than I could answer. She never knew how hard I worked to keep her dreams alive. She never saw the nights when I went without dinner so she could have enough milk before school. She never knew the shame I swallowed when I scrubbed floors in other people's houses, telling them proudly, "This is for my daughter's education." I remembered her first school trip. She had begged me for a new frock, bright and beautiful like her friends wore. I had no money then, but I stayed up all night, stitching together an old sari into a dress. When she wore it the next morning, her smile lit the whole street. She twirled and said, "Look, Ma, I'm just like the others." She never saw the tears I hid in my dupatta. As she grew older, her demands grew too, but so did my sacrifices. Her tuition fees, her books, her shoes. I carried them all. I worked double shifts, ironed clothes until my palms blistered, sold even the silver anklets my mother had given me on my own wedding day. Also, my daughter could walk with her head held high. And oh, how proud I was when she graduated. I wore my best sari, thin and faded, but my heart was rich. When she walked across the stage, I clapped until my hands hurt, whispering, "She is mine. My little girl has made it." I remembered the day she married. I stood in the corner of the hall, my sari patched, my jewelry simple, but my pride taller than anyone else's. When she bowed to touch my feet, I whispered blessings through my tears, promising her silently, "No matter where life takes you, your mother will always be by your side." And now here I was, preparing for her baby shower, the moment when my daughter would step into motherhood, the moment I thought she would reach for me, needing me again, the way she once did when she was small. I held the baby blanket closer, imagining her smile when she unfolded it, when she realized it was sewn from the very cloth of her childhood. I imagined her saying, "Ma, only you could give me such a gift." If this story has touched your heart so far, don't forget to subscribe. More voices of forgotten mothers must be heard. But even as I dreamed, unease stirred in my chest. My phone lay silent on the table. No call had come. No message had arrived. I told myself, they must be busy. The preparations must be keeping her hands full. Still, the silence weighed heavier with each hour. I stood by the window, watching as cars pulled into her courtyard. Women in bright saris stepped out, carrying gift boxes wrapped in shiny paper. Their laughter floated through the air, light as kites. I clutched my paper bag tighter. My gift seemed so small compared to theirs, but my heart whispered, "She will understand. She will see the love in my stitches." I thought the silence was only because she was busy, but it was the beginning of something far more painful. The morning of my daughter's baby shower, I woke before the sun. Excitement fluttered in my chest like a bird long caged finally allowed to fly. Today, I told myself, I would see her glowing, surrounded by blessings, stepping into motherhood, the very journey I had once walked alone. I opened the small wooden box beside my bed and pulled out the gift I had prepared. A soft baby blanket I had sewn from scraps of old cloth. Each patch had been chosen with care: blue from my son's shirt, pink from my daughter's frock, white from a sari border I had once worn proudly. My fingers had stitched late into the night, humming lullabies I once sang to her, imagining her cradling her own child. I pressed the folded blanket to my chest and whispered, "This is from your mother's hands, my child, from the very hands that carried you." I chose my best sari for the day, a cream one with faint gold embroidery, worn thin but still holding grace. I brushed my gray hair into a bun, smoothed my face with a touch of powder, and looked into the mirror. The lines were deeper, the skin softer, but the eyes still carried love. As I adjusted my shawl, I thought of how I had once dreamed of this day, the day when my little girl, the one I had raised through storms and sacrifices, would finally step into her own journey of motherhood, and I, her mother, would stand beside her, blessing her, holding her hand, reminding her she was not alone. I tucked the blanket into a paper bag, carefully wrapping it in tissue. It wasn't a gift from a shop, not something bought with money, but it was filled with memories, sacrifices, and love stitched into every seam. As I sat waiting for someone to call me, I whispered to myself, "She will want me there." A daughter always needs her mother. I thought this day would finally bring me closer to her, but I was wrong.